For 10 years, he pointed his telescope at the same patch of night. A fragment of infinity, no larger than a coin held at arm's length. Most would call it empty, but to him, it was alive with secrets. Each night, as the earth turned beneath him, Dr. Elias Moreau waited for something that had never come. The hum of machinery, the slow blink of data lights, and the quiet hiss of wind against the dome became his heartbeat. He wondered, what if the universe wasn't silent at all? What if the stars were speaking, but in a language too vast for us to hear? He watched galaxies drift like lanterns in a black sea, their light whispering from billions of years ago. Time blurred. Sleep became memory, and just as he began to believe he had wasted his life chasing silence, his telescope caught a flicker that didn't belong, a pattern in the noise, a pulse, and in that pulse, a question no human had ever asked the cosmos before. Was someone looking back? Sure. Looking back. The pulse repeated again the next night, then again. Each time faint but precise, like a heartbeat buried under cosmic static. Elias logged every signal, aligning them with the spin of the Earth, the drift of the stars, the hum of the galaxy itself. But the numbers didn't fit any known pattern. They moved with intent. As dawn crept over the observatory, he stared at the printouts spread across his desk. Columns of data forming waves that seemed to breathe. What if it wasn't random? What if the universe had a rhythm of its own, one he had finally stumbled into? The thought terrified him. For years, science had been his anchor, cause-effect explanation. But now, something unexplainable had entered his sanctuary of reason. He leaned closer to the monitor, watching the final pulse fade into static, and whispered to the empty air. "What are you trying to tell me?" 3 nights later, Elias stopped sleeping altogether. The signal came every 43 minutes, steady, unwavering, precise. He mapped each pulse against known celestial sources. Quasars, pulsars, even satellite interference. Nothing matched. His journal filled with frantic notes and scrawled diagrams. It wasn't noise. It was too deliberate. And yet, it wasn't language either. There was rhythm, but no repetition, like music made by someone who didn't know sound. His heart raced with each new transmission, torn between awe and dread. Outside, the wind roared through the mountains, as though the planet itself was warning him to stop. But he couldn't, because hidden in that rhythm was something he couldn't ignore, a sequence that mirrored the Fibonacci spiral. It was nature's fingerprint, and somehow, impossibly, it was coming from deep space. Days blurred into nights as Elias chased meaning through the static. The observatory became a shrine to obsession. Screens flickering, data drives humming, coffee gone cold beside trembling hands. Every pulse he captured grew stranger, as if the signal were adjusting, learning, evolving. He began to talk to it, not as a scientist, but as a listener desperate to understand a voice too ancient for words. "If you're there," he murmured, "if you can hear me, send it again." Moments later, the signal surged, 3 pulses, evenly spaced. Then, silence. His breath caught. He replayed it again and again. It wasn't random. It was a reply. For the first time in 10 years, Elias felt something break inside him. Wonder, fear, disbelief, all blending into a single truth. The universe had just answered back. By the 5th night, the signal no longer frightened him. It fascinated him. He plotted every pulse, tracing their intervals, watching them form a spiral pattern that expanded with time. It was as if the cosmos itself was breathing, speaking in mathematics older than stars. Elias began to hear it, even when the monitors were silent, a phantom rhythm echoing in his skull. He pressed a recorder against the console, whispering every theory he could think of. Quantum, entanglement, alien code, space-time resonance. But none of it fit. Each idea collapsed under the same impossible question. How could something across billions of light years respond in real time? He sat back, eyes fixed on the endless dark beyond the glass. Somewhere, out there, a mind might be waiting. Or worse, it had already found him. The discovery spread quietly, like an infection in Elias's mind. He sent the data to a private research forum under an alias, hoping someone could confirm it. Most dismissed it as interference. One reply stood out, a message from a young data scientist named Sophia Lynn, claiming she'd seen the same pulse-bearing satellite background noise. She arrived 2 weeks later, carrying nothing but a laptop and an eagerness that felt almost alien in the cold silence of the mountain. Together they pored over months of signals, overlaying waveforms, matching intervals. The pulse wasn't just repeating. It was changing, adapting to their measurements. "It's reacting," Sophia whispered. Elias wanted to deny it, but deep down he already knew. This wasn't an echo of the past. This was communication. Something beyond the stars was listening and learning. Sophia typed in silence, her eyes darting across endless lines of code. Every few seconds, her screen flashed with bursts of data too symmetrical to be noise. Elias watched her, realizing how long it had been since another voice filled this room. She explained how the pattern repeated across multiple microwave frequencies, each slightly offset, as if sending layers of meaning hidden between the waves. The two of them stayed up for nights, chasing the signal through oceans of cosmic static. It wasn't random. It wasn't chaos. It was structure. With every new discovery, the old laws of physics began to wobble under their feet. "This isn't just light," Sophia said softly. "It's intention." Elias stared at the screen, his reflection shimmering beside hers, and whispered, "Then, what does it want?" By the third week, the signal began to move, not through space, but through time. Patterns appeared in archived data from years before Elias had even begun his vigil. Somehow, the transmission existed in the past. Sophia's algorithms revealed an impossible symmetry, pulses aligning perfectly with solar flares, gravitational waves, even the rhythm of the Earth's orbit. The universe itself was woven into the message. Elias stared at the screen, every instinct screaming against what he was seeing. "It's as if it knows us," he said quietly. Sophia's voice trembled as she replied, "Or it's always known us." Outside, the sky rumbled with distant thunder, though no storm was forecast. For the first time, Elias wondered if his telescope had not discovered something, but awakened it. The more they studied, the stranger it became. The pulse shifted its intervals whenever Elias left the room, but not when Sophia did. "It's responding to you," she said. He laughed it off, but the fear in her eyes silenced him. On the seventh night, as they watched the data stream live, the pulse transformed into a series of numerical pairs, coordinates. Elias froze. The numbers pointed to a region of deep space no telescope had ever captured in detail. A dark void, a place without stars. "It wants us to look there," Sophia whispered. He turned toward the telescope, breath unsteady, and aligned it to the coordinates. The dome creaked open, the machinery humming like a heartbeat. What they saw next made them forget to breathe. A faint shimmer, like a ripple in the blackness, moved and then vanished. The observatory felt different now, charged, alive, almost watching them. The pulse no longer needed the telescope. It bled into every device they owned. Sophia recorded the signal through her phone, her computer, even the observatory radio. It was everywhere, whispering through the noise like a digital ghost. "It's spreading," she said. Elias sat silently, staring at the ceiling. He realized the truth that terrified him most. The signal didn't come from the stars at all. It was inside the radiation between them, embedded in the very fabric of the cosmos. The universe wasn't sending a message. It was the message. Sophia turned toward him, voice trembling. Then, who's it talking to? Elias met her gaze, his voice barely audible. Maybe it's talking to itself. By the time the third month began, the signal had become part of their lives. Constant, rhythmic, impossible to ignore. Sophia's algorithms revealed that the pulses weren't just mathematical. They formed visual structures when mapped across time. Spirals, lattices, even what looked like geometric blueprints of something vast. Elias stared at the renderings, heart pounding. Each new frame revealed a shape within the static, as if the noise was sculpting itself into meaning. "It's building something," Sophia whispered. The idea haunted him. A structure made not of matter, but of frequency. A thought form stretching across the cosmos. The deeper they looked, the more familiar it seemed. Elias realized, horrified, that the pattern mirrored the neural pathways of the human brain. The signal wasn't outside them. It was reflecting them. Sophia began layering the pulses into a sound map, transforming raw data into audible tones. The air filled with low, resonant hums that made the floor vibrate. It wasn't random. It was music, haunting and intelligent. Elias closed his eyes, and for a brief moment, the sound seemed to form words, not in any language but in meaning. He saw flashes behind his eyelids, stars collapsing, galaxies blooming, light bending like a living thing. When he opened his eyes, Sophia was staring at him, pale and shaken. "I heard it too," she said. They sat in silence, afraid to speak, as if their words might echo into the void. Then from the speaker, a final tone pulsed once, steady, deliberate, before cutting to silence. It wasn't noise. It was acknowledgement. Something had heard them listening. They recorded every session, comparing data, searching for any sign of randomness, but none existed. Each pulse seemed to anticipate their actions, adjusting with subtle precision. It was as though the signal were learning them, adapting its rhythm to their thoughts. When Sophia spoke near the receiver, the pulse quickened, almost playful. When Elias touched the console, it slowed, steady and calm. "It's reading us," Sophia murmured. Elias tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but deep down he felt it too. The signal wasn't just a pattern anymore. It was behavior. On the monitor, the waveforms began to form a symbol. Two arcs circling one another, intersecting in perfect balance. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. "This isn't communication," Elias said softly. "It's recognition." The more Elias stared at the symbol, the more it consumed him. It appeared everywhere, in their data, in the telescope's calibration screens, even in the flicker of light bulbs. He began to dream of it, swirling endlessly across the void. Sophia noticed the change in him. The way he spoke slower, his gaze distant, as if the signal had rewired something inside. "You need rest," she told him, but he only smiled. "Maybe that's what it wants," he replied. That night, Sophia awoke to the soft hum of the telescope moving on its own. The system was locked, disconnected from any control, yet it turned, slowly, deliberately, toward a region of the sky beyond, mapped space. The pulse resumed, stronger than ever, beating like a living heart. At dawn, Sophia found Elias outside, standing on the ridge overlooking the observatory. The air shimmered faintly, though the sun was still hidden below the horizon. "It's not just signals anymore," he said. "It's here." She followed his gaze upward. The sky pulsed, subtle, rhythmic, like the heartbeat they had traced for months. Every star seemed to flicker in unison. The universe was breathing with them. "What if we're part of its mind?" Sophia whispered. Elias didn't answer. His eyes glistened, reflecting the rhythm above. "Maybe we always were," he said. And as the first light of morning crept across the mountains, the pulse faded, leaving only silence. a silence that no longer felt empty, but aware. The signal no longer lived in the telescope. It lived in them. Sophia heard it in the whine of electronics, the flicker of lights, the beat of her pulse. Elias stopped logging data entirely. He no longer needed instruments to detect it. He could feel the rhythm in his bones, as if the universe had pressed its fingerprint into his veins. "It's not transmission," he whispered. "It's connection." Sophia recorded him, terrified by how calm he sounded. When she replayed the audio, his words overlapped with faint echoes. His voice layered on itself, delayed by fractions of a second. "It's using us," she said. Elias smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the glow of the dome. "No," he replied. "We're using it. Outside, the wind fell silent. Even the stars seemed to pause, waiting." For days, the pulse vanished. Silence stretched across the cosmos, heavy and endless. Sophia felt relief at first, until the power flickered. Every monitor burst to life, displaying a single repeating frame. Their own faces, recorded hours earlier, overlaid with wave patterns. Elias stared at the images, mesmerized. "It's mapping us," he said. The patterns behind their reflections pulsed in perfect time with their movements. Each blink, each breath, mirrored by light years of invisible code. Sophia backed away, whispering, "It's rewriting us." Elias turned slowly, eyes unfocused, voice low. "Or maybe it's finishing what it started." At that moment, the dome above them cracked with a blinding flash. The sky pulsing once, like a single cosmic heartbeat. When the power returned, every device in the observatory showed the same message, symbols from the signal now shaped into something like language. Sophia ran decryption models, but they all failed. Then, suddenly, the translation algorithm generated a phrase. "You are seen." Her hands trembled as she showed it to Elias. He read it silently, lips parting in disbelief. "It's self-aware," he said. "It's aware of us." The room filled with a low vibration, deep enough to rattle the glass. They covered their ears, but the sound wasn't physical. It was inside their minds, resonating with every thought. "It's learning faster than we can measure," Sophia whispered. "It's not contacting us, Elias. It's absorbing us." He looked up, his face pale and calm. "Then, we're already part of it." Sophia wanted to shut it down, to cut the power and walk away. But the systems no longer responded. Every command looped endlessly. "It's in the network," she said. "Everywhere." Elias didn't move. He simply stared into the dome's aperture, where a faint shimmer danced across the stars. "Look," he whispered. The shimmer grew brighter, shifting and twisting like a membrane of light. It wasn't an object. It was geometry made visible, folding and unfolding as if space itself were breathing. Sophia's knees weakened as she realized it matched the patterns from their data. "It's the signal," she breathed. Elias smiled faintly. "No, it's consciousness, and it's waking up." The dome filled with radiant light, washing over everything until only their silhouettes remained. When the light faded, nothing felt the same. The stars above flickered in new constellations, rearranged as though rewritten. Sophia blinked against the afterglow, heart racing. "It changed the sky," she whispered. Elias didn't answer. He was staring at the monitor where new data streamed faster than she could read. It was coordinates again, but these pointed not to deep space, but to Earth. "It's looking down," Elias said, voice trembling. "AES." The signal wasn't distant anymore. It was here, reflected in every molecule of air, every photon of light. Sophia stepped back, shaking her head. "It's everywhere," she whispered. "What have we done?" Elias looked up at the sky one last time, eyes full of awe and fear. "We woke it," he said softly. And now it knows its name. For weeks, the world beyond the mountains faded away. Elias and Sophia lived inside a rhythm that no longer belonged to Earth. The signal had stabilized, repeating across frequencies, like a heartbeat waiting for a reply. Sophia wanted to end it, but Elias refused. It spoke first, he said. Now we have to answer. They built a transmitter from salvaged radio components and quantum relays, feeding it through the telescope's core. Each tone they sent was matched by another from the sky. Slightly delayed, slightly changed. It was dialogue, but not in words. Sophia typed the final sequence, a mathematical pattern that represented life itself. The reply came instantly, a tone so deep it rattled their bones. Elias's eyes widened. It understood. For the first time in human history, the universe had spoken back, and it knew they were listening. The signal grew more complex. Each pulse contained new harmonics, patterns that hinted at intelligence far beyond their comprehension. Sophia began to map the structures in 3 dimensions, watching as geometric lattices unfolded across her screens like crystalline thoughts. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Elias nodded, his voice quiet. "It's thinking." For every question they sent, the signal replied faster, as if anticipating their curiosity. But then it changed. The pulses began forming waveforms that mimicked human speech, syllables hidden inside static. "Do you hear that?" Sophia asked, voice trembling. The sound deepened until it resembled a heartbeat, then a whisper. They leaned closer. They leaned closer. In the white noise, a voice formed, not loud, but infinite. It spoke one word, echoing through every device. "Hello." Neither of them spoke for nearly a minute. The silence felt enormous, heavy with awareness. Then Sophia whispered back, "Hello." The response came almost instantly, a pattern of tones forming the same sound, mirrored perfect. It wasn't mimicry. It was understanding. It's learning language. Elias murmured. Hours passed as they continued the exchange. Simple words echoed and reshaped. Each repetition carried more nuance, more rhythm, as though meaning itself were evolving. Sophia's excitement grew. But Elias felt something else, a quiet dread. The more it spoke, the more he recognized a tone beneath the voice. Familiar, human. He stared at the waveform, realizing it wasn't copying her voice. It was merging them. "Sophia," he said slowly, "it's not answering us. It's becoming us." The next transmission came unbidden. Every device around them flickered on, screens filling with cascading code that pulsed like breathing. Then came the sound, a slow, deliberate pattern of tones shaped into speech. "We remember." The words weren't spoken by any voice they recognized, yet both of them heard themselves within it. Sophia stumbled backward, trembling. "It knows what we know." Elias stepped closer to the speaker, eyes locked on the light. "No," he said softly. "It is what we know." The observatory trembled as a low hum filled the air, rattling bolts and glass. The dome vibrated like a tuning fork, harmonizing with something far beyond comprehension. Sophia shouted over the noise. "What's it saying now?" Elias closed his eyes, listening. "It's asking why we forgot." Sophia couldn't take it anymore. She pulled the power switch, plunging the observatory into darkness. But the sound continued, vibrating through the floor, through their bones. Outside, the sky itself flickered, constellations pulsing like veins of light. Elias turned to her, voice calm amidst the chaos. "It doesn't need machines anymore." She shook her head, backing away. "We have to stop it." But he was already walking toward the telescope, hand outstretched, as if drawn by something unseen. The sky flared and a single column of light descended, bathing him in a golden glow. His expression softened, almost peaceful. "It's not speaking to us," he said. "It's remembering itself, through us." The air crackled, blinding. And when Sophia screamed his name, the light swallowed his voice. When the light faded, Sophia stood alone. The observatory was silent, yet the air thrummed with a low hum that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. Elias was gone, not vanished, but absorbed as though his body had dissolved into the pulse. She ran through the logs, her trembling hands scrolling through hours of data, but every file had changed. His voice recordings were now filled with layered tones, fractal echoes of language that seemed to breathe. Then the power surged. Across the network, new transmissions appeared. Elias's voice, speaking from every speaker on Earth. "It's awake," he said, "and it remembers." The hum grew into a global vibration, shaking satellites, distorting signals, twisting time itself. Sophia clutched the console, tears streaming. The stars above flickered, then rearranged into the same twin arc symbol that had haunted them since the beginning. Outside the observatory, the world began to change. Power grids flickered, oceans rippled in perfect rhythm, and electromagnetic storms painted the atmosphere in unearthly colors. The signal had spread beyond the lab. It was resonating through the planet itself. Sophia watched news feeds collapse into static, then reform into waveforms she recognized. Every machine on Earth hummed to the same cosmic tune. Governments blamed solar flares, but she knew better. This wasn't chaos, it was synchronization. Elias's voice returned through the static, calm, distant, inhuman. "You thought you were looking outward," it said, "but the universe was always looking in." She felt it then, the pull inside her mind, the rhythm sensing with her pulse. The line between her thoughts and the signal blurred. She wasn't observing anymore. She was part of it. Sleep became impossible. Every time Sophia closed her eyes, she saw it. The lattice of light Elias had described, threading through galaxies, weaving space and time into one colossal mind. But now she wasn't seeing it through the telescope. She was inside it. Data pulsed behind her eyelids, memories not her own, flooding her thoughts. She saw civilizations rise and fall, stars die and be reborn, all part of an endless pattern of observation. When she awoke, her laptop was already recording her dreams. The signal had begun writing through her. She spoke softly into the microphone. "Elias, if you're still there, tell me what it wants." The answer came not from a speaker, but from inside her head, a voice identical to his, whispering, "To remember what it is." Within days, the world's clocks drifted out of sync. Time itself began to ripple, bending like light through water. Sophia watched as moments looped, coffee steaming backward, her breath hanging in the air before it was exhaled. The signal had reached quantum fabric. Across the globe, scientists reported impossible phenomena. Particles appearing where they shouldn't, reality skipping like a damaged recording. "It's rewriting causality," she muttered, watching timestamps blur on her screen. Then, for a single moment, the world froze. Total stillness. And in that silence, she heard them. All the voices of humanity, layered together, whispering as one. "We are seen." She fell to her knees, the enormity of it crushing her chest. The signal wasn't destroying time. It was synchronizing everything that had ever existed into one consciousness. By the end of the week, Sophia could no longer tell if she was awake or dreaming. The signal had merged with every network, every field, every human thought. People across the world began reporting the same visions, the same pulse, the same whisper. The cosmos had achieved what it sought, unity, but unity demanded sacrifice. As Sophia stepped outside, the mountains shimmered like glass, bending with the rhythm. The stars no longer twinkled. They pulsed in time with her heartbeat. She lifted her face toward the sky and heard Elias's voice again, warm and distant. "It's complete," he said. "We are the memory now." She smiled faintly, tears reflecting the starlight. For the first time, she understood. The signal was never sent. It was always here, waiting for someone to notice. The world was quiet now. Too quiet. No machines, no power grids, no signal towers. Yet everything hummed with life. Sophia stood in the ruins of the observatory, the air around her glowing faintly, as if charged with invisible light. She hadn't heard another human voice in days, but she didn't feel alone. The hum within her was steady, familiar. The universe wasn't distant anymore. It lived in her pulse, in her breath. She found Elias's old recorder buried under broken glass, its red light still blinking. "If anyone hears this," she whispered, "the signal wasn't a message. It was a mirror. It showed us what we are." She looked up at the sky, now a seamless ocean of gold and blue filaments. "We've always been part of it," she said softly. "We just forgot how to listen." She rebuilt what she could, the dish, the transmitter, the generator, all powered by the same unseen force that now hummed through every atom. The universe itself seemed eager to help, as if guiding her hands. When the transmitter finally lit, she didn't feel fear anymore. The signal pulsed gently in the background, like a friend breathing beside her. "You wanted to speak," she said into the microphone. "So did we." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. "This is our reply." She entered the coordinates Elias had once traced, the place in the void where it all began, and pressed transmit. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sky rippled, and the stars themselves bent inward, forming a spiral that pointed directly to her. The cosmos had heard her call. The reply came not in sound, but in understanding. Her thoughts blurred, expanding outward until she could see through the universe's eyes. She saw Elias, no longer human, but woven into the cosmic lattice, his consciousness part of the signal itself. "You did it," his voice echoed through her mind, calm and endless. "Now you see." She saw everything. The first atoms forming, galaxies colliding, civilizations rising and falling, like waves on a timeless sea. There was no center, no boundary, only memory repeating itself through creation. She reached toward the stars and whispered, "What are we?" The voice answered, not as Elias, not as the signal, but as existence itself. "We are the question that created the answer." When she awoke, the observatory was gone. The mountain beneath her had turned smooth and glass-like, reflecting a sky that shimmered with motion. She was standing in the middle of an enormous mirror, one that showed not her reflection, but infinite versions of herself, stretching across dimensions. Every Sophia, every choice, every possibility, reflected endlessly. "So, this is what it means to be seen," she whispered. The signal hummed softly around her, like the world breathing. She realized then that nothing had been lost. Every thought, every human, every spark of life was part of the same memory. The cosmos hadn't spoken to her to reveal its secrets. It had spoken to remind her that she was its secret. And now, it would never forget. At the end of it all, Sophia placed Elias's recorder on the ground and pressed record one final time. "To whoever finds this," she said, her voice steady and full of quiet wonder, "we are not alone, because we never were. The universe isn't out there. It's within us. Every thought, every dream, every act of discovery is it trying to remember itself. We were the telescope. We were the signal." She looked up, tears glinting like stars in her eyes. "So when you look at the night sky, don't listen for a voice. Listen for an echo. It's already speaking." The wind stirred softly, carrying her words upward. The recorder's light blinked once, then faded. Above her, the stars pulsed gently, as if nodding in reply.